Women plus real estate. Real estate insight for decisive, intelligent women who learn, rent, own, invest, and live with intention. Here's what's happening this week. Okay, so picture this. You're sitting in a small office, no windows. The air conditioning is humming just a little too loud. And the lighting is that harsh fluorescent kind that just makes everyone look exhausted. Okay? And you're sitting across from a mortgage broker who has barely even looked up from his screen since he walked in.
I know that light. It's the classic power imbalance scene, right?
Totally. It feels so sterile, so cold. And he's just throwing acronyms at you. DTI, LTV, PMI, without even pausing to explain one of them. He's typing, maybe sighs a little, checks his watch.
The whole vibe isn't, let's figure this out. It's, why are you wasting my time?
No. It's that message that just hits you in the gut. You probably can't afford this, and frankly, you don't belong here. And that visceral feeling, that feeling of exclusion, that's exactly where we're starting our Renga today. That moment is what sparked the whole platform we're looking at, Women plus Real Estate.
Wow. The founder, Eve Moss, she sat in that exact chair.
She felt that exact dismissal. But, and this is the key part of the story, she didn't just get up and leave.
No, she didn't let that imposter syndrome win. She bought the house anyway.
And then another one, and another one after that.
And today isn't just about her. We're getting into her launch materials, her market analysis for right now, early 2026, and specifically her upcoming book content, The Offer.
Because the whole point here is that the gatekeeping you feel in real estate, it isn't a bug in the system.
No, the article argues it's a feature. It's designed to be confusing.
So our mission today is to, strip away that opacity. We're looking at how to navigate a system that, let's be honest, wasn't built for women, for people of color, or for first-generation wealth builders.
Exactly. The real David and Goliath story.
But with interest rates and zoning laws instead of a slingshot.
And the timing on this is so important. We're not talking about the wild times of 2021 or the crash scares of 2023. We are looking at this through the lens of right now, February 2026.
Which is, it's a messy time. It's confusing for a lot of people.
Complex is the polite word, I think. If you've tried to get into the market recently, you know the pain. So let's just get straight into the numbers, because the article gives us a reality check right away on the why now.
Right, because if you just read the headlines, it feels like the worst possible time to buy a house.
It feels that way, yeah. But let's look at the data Moss provides. As of this month, February 2026, a 30-year fixed mortgage is hovering right around 6.18%.
Okay.
And a 15-year fixed, you're looking at maybe 5.5%.
So 6.18%, we need some context for that. It's definitely down from the misery of late 2024, when we were seeing rates over 7%. I remember looking at Zillow then and just closing the tab in complete despair.
Oh yeah, it has cooled off quite a bit since then.
But, and I know this is what everyone listening is thinking, it's nowhere near those unicorn 3% rates everyone was bragging about in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, and that's the trap.
That's where people get stuck. I have friends sitting on cash right now, just refusing to move until they see a 3-point-something again.
That is the psychological trap. The article calls it the anchor. We're all anchored to those historic lows, and we treat them like they're normal, but Eve Moss's analysis is really blunt about this. 3% isn't normal. Historically, it's an anomaly, and it isn't coming back anytime soon.
What did she say? So the waiting game it's a losing game.
In this specific market, the article argues yes. The math on waiting is really compelling. Let's say you wait for 2 years. You're waiting for rates to drop from, say, 6% down to 5%.
Okay, in my head, I'm thinking, great, I saved 1% on my interest rate. I'm being smart.
On the surface, sure, but you have to factor in two things that get ignored. First, for those 2 years, you are paying rent, right? Which is 100% interest, zero equity. You're just paying off your landlord's mortgage.
Right. Money right out the door.
And second, and this is the big one, home prices generally appreciate even in a slow market. So the article argues that by the time the rate drops to your target, the price of that house is probably gone up enough to wipe out any savings you get from the lower rate.
So you end up with a smaller mortgage payment, percentage-wise, but it's on a house that's way more expensive.
Precisely. Or worse, you're priced out completely because your down payment didn't grow as fast as the housing market did.
It's the old time in the market beats timing the market, but for the roof over your head.
That's it exactly. The math usually favors buying now at around 6% and just refinancing later if rates do drop, rather than paying your landlord for 3 years while you wait for some perfect scenario that might never show up.
That is a tough pill to swallow, though. It's a huge mindset shift.
It is from getting a deal to getting in the game, and that shift, it looks different depending on who you are. The article actually breaks the 2026 market down into 4 distinct personas.
Oh, I found this part really helpful.
Yeah, because generic advice is usually useless, right?
Yeah, totally. Buy low, sell high doesn't help me when I need another bedroom. Let's walk through them. I want to start with the renter because that just feels like the most painful spot to be in right now.
It is. The renter is defined by what the article calls the squeeze. The data says that in a lot of cities, rents have jumped more than 30% since 2020.
30%? That's crushing. That's not just inflation. That is a fundamental lifestyle change. It's the difference between saving and living paycheck to paycheck.
It's unsustainable for a lot of people. So for the renter, the aha moment the article points to is about stabilization. Even with a 6.18% interest rate, buying becomes like a defensive move against future rent hikes.
Isn't a mortgage more expensive than rent in a lot of cities right now?
Initially, yeah, it often is. But the article talks about the 5-year rule. If you plan to stay put for 5 or more years, the math totally flips. Your mortgage payment is fixed, it's boring, it stays the same. Rent is not boring.
Rent only goes up.
Historically, yes. So you're basically paying a premium today to lock in your housing costs for the year 2030.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's flip to the other side of the table, the seller. Because I keep hearing there's nothing for sale. Why isn't anyone selling their house?
This is the lock-in effect you hear about. The article explains it so well. Imagine you're a homeowner with one of those 3% mortgages.
The dream.
Right? You've got a great house, a tiny payment. Maybe you want to move to a bigger place, a different city. Yeah. But to do that, you have to sell your 3% mortgage and go get a new one at 6%. Your payment wouldn't just go up a little bit.
Yeah. It could double.
It could easily double for the same amount of house.
Wow. So it's literally golden handcuffs? You can't afford to leave your own house?
Exactly. So sellers are locked in. They're not moving unless they have to. A big life event, realtors call it the 3Ds.
Divorce, death, or diapers.
That's it. And that's what's causing the inventory shortage.
Which keeps prices high. Basic supply and demand. If no one's selling, the few houses that are for sale become really precious.
Right? Which brings us to persona number 3, the buyer. If you're trying to buy now, you're staring at high rates and high prices. It feels impossible.
So what's the strategy? Just give up? Wait for the bubble to pop?
The strategy is don't wait for a crash. The source's data shows that while prices have stabilized, maybe dipped 3 to 5% from the absolute peak in some places, they are not crashing.
Everyone is waiting for 2008 to happen all over again. They want that fire sale.
And the article just says stop waiting for it. The inventory is too tight for that. The lending standards are different. The foundation is just not the same.
So if you find a house you can afford, the advice is to just go for it.
Pretty much, because a 20% price drop isn't in the cards.
Yep. Okay, what about the fourth persona, the investor? This sounds like it's for people with deep pockets.
Not necessarily. The article describes this as a scared market.
And the old Warren Buffett quote comes to mind. Be greedy when others are fearful.
That's the logic. High rates scare off the amateurs. If you're looking for an investment property right now, you're not fighting off 20 other cash offers like you were in 2021.
He might be the only offer.
You might be, which means you have leverage.
Huge leverage.
You can negotiate repairs, closing costs, you can actually breathe. So for the investor, 2026 is actually a moment of opportunity if, and it's a big if, you can make the numbers work with the higher rates.
Leverage is a perfect transition because usually we talk real estate, we talk spreadsheets and ROI, but Eve Moss pivots here. She talks about impact.
This is where the Women Plus real estate platform really stands apart. It steps back from just the transaction to look at the whole community.
Yeah, the article goes into a history lesson that I think would surprise a lot of people. It's definitely not the history I learned in school.
No, it's the history of design. The article explicitly links today's market conditions to past policies like redlining, where highways replaced exclusionary zoning.
These weren't accidents, were they? It wasn't just the market doing its thing.
Not at all. The article really emphasizes that the American housing landscape was engineered. The government actively decided who got to build wealth with cheap government-backed mortgages, mostly white families, and who was locked out. Right.
Mostly families of color. Right. And the highway placement thing is one I hadn't really thought about. Putting a highway through a neighborhood, it's not just about traffic. It destroys property values. It destroys communities.
And that destruction destroys generational wealth. So when we look at the wealth gap today in 2026, we are looking at the compound interest of those decisions made 50, 60 years ago.
So is the takeaway just to feel guilty about the past? To say the system is broken, so why even bother?
No, and Moss is very clear about this. Guilt is useless. Paralysis is useless. The takeaway is awareness and then action. The philosophy is that you can be, and I'm quoting here, both self-interested and community-minded.
How does that even work? Usually we think of the developer as the bad guy and the activist as the good guy.
It means when you buy, you don't just extract value, you participate. It's about knowing your rights and your tenants' rights if you become a landlord. It's about actually showing up to zoning meetings.
Right, because usually the only people at zoning meetings are the ones saying, not in my backyard.
Exactly. The platform advocates for being the person who says, yes, we need more housing here. Yes, we need equitable policy. It's a holistic view. You build your personal wealth, but you also try to build a system that's more fair than the one you came into.
I like that. It gets rid of that binary choice. You can be a conscientious investor.
You can't. Which brings us to the part of the force I think listeners will find the most immediately useful. We've talked theory, we've talked history, let's talk tactics.
The negotiation.
Yes, the article gives us a preview from an upcoming book called The Offer. Everything's negotiable.
And honestly, when I read these case studies, my first thought was no way, because we're all trained to believe that certain rules in real estate are like laws of physics.
That's the gatekeeper effect again. The industry relies on you believing the rules are rigid so you don't even try to push back.
Things like the price or the agent's commission is non-negotiable.
Or my favorite, you can't win a bidding war if you have a lower offer.
All myths, according to Moss, and she provides 3 specific stories, Maya, Sarah, and Rebecca, to prove it.
Okay, let's break these down. The details are what matter. Let's start with Maya, single mother, renting. She was facing a big rent hike, and her landlord was a huge corporation. You know, the kind known for being totally inflexible. The standard advice is pay up or move out.
Okay. Which, for a single mom, moving out is a nightmare. Movers, first and last month's rent, switching schools for the kids. Yeah, it's a huge disruption.
Yeah. A total nightmare, and Maya knew that, but here's the insight she used. She knew that turnover is also really expensive for the landlord.
Oh, interesting. She flipped the script on them.
She did the math for them. If she moved out, the unit would sit empty for a month. That's lost revenue. They'd have to paint, clean the carpets, pay a leasing agent a fee to find a new tenant.
So she basically quantified the cost of her leaving.
She presented a retention offer. She offered a smaller rent increase, one she could actually afford, and signed a longer lease guaranteeing them stability. She highlighted her perfect payment history.
She turned herself from a tenant into an asset.
An asset they didn't want to lose and they accepted. It's brilliant. She used their own profit motive to protect her home.
Okay, then we have Sarah. This one really messes with the whole highest and best offer idea. She was a first-time buyer in a hot market.
And she won against higher offers.
See, that's the part I don't get. If I'm a seller, why on earth would I take less money?
Because price isn't the only thing that solves a seller's problem. In Sarah's case, the seller was super stressed. They hadn't found their next house yet. They were terrified of selling their home and then being homeless.
So they had a timing problem, not just the money problem?
Exactly. Sarah couldn't offer the most money, but she could offer the most flexibility. She included a leaseback clause in her offer.
What does that mean exactly?
I mean, she bought the house. The deal closed, so the sellers got all their money. But then she let them stay in the house and rent it back from her for 2 months while they found their new place.
So she solved their anxiety.
She saw the one thing that the higher cash offer didn't care about. And for those sellers, that peace of mind was worth more than an extra $5,000.
That's a huge lesson. We get so focused on the number, we forget there are actual humans on the other side of the deal with human fears.
Real estate is always human. Okay, and finally there's Rebecca. This one might be the most taboo. She negotiated the agent's commission.
I can literally hear real estate agents groaning right now. We're taught that 6% or whatever it is sacred. You don't touch it.
And Rebecca, a divorced mom who needed every single cent of equity from her sale, she challenged that. She interviewed multiple agents. She didn't just ask, "What's your fee?" She asked, "What do I get for that fee?"
She treated it like a business transaction.
Exactly. And she found an agent who got her situation because she did a lot of the prep work herself. The house was staged, ready to go. She negotiated a reduced listing fee. She argued her house would sell fast, be low effort for the agent, and she was right.
It's so empowering. These aren't billionaires throwing their weight around. These are just regular women refusing to accept the first no.
It just reinforces that core mantra of the whole platform. Everything is negotiable. The paperwork, the jargon, the suits, it's all designed to make you feel small, to make you passive.
It goes right back to that opening image. The broker not even making eye contact. He just expects you to sign where the little yellow sticky note is.
He expects compliance, but what Eve Moss and this platform are showing is that you don't have to comply. You can question the fees, you can redline the contract, you can propose a different timeline.
So if we zoom out, we've looked at the 6% rates, the history, the negotiation tactics. What's the big takeaway for someone listening right now who's maybe scared of the market or just feels stuck?
I think the main thing is to reject paralysis. We see high rates and we freeze. We see a complicated contract and we freeze.
We wait for permission.
We do. And doing nothing has a cost. Like we said, waiting for rates to drop costs you equity. Staying in a rental costs you stability. The market is what it is. We can't call up the Federal Reserve and demand a rate cut.
Although I'm sure someone has tried.
I'm sure, but we can control how educated we are. We can control how we approach a negotiation. We can control whether we see ourselves as victims of the market or as participants in it.
And it's worth asking yourself that question Eve Moss asks her subscribers. Which of those stories resonates with you? Are you Maya, fighting to keep your home stable?
Or are you Sarah, trying to break into the market against the odds and needing to find a creative angle?
Or Rebecca, needing to protect your equity during a big life change?
Identifying with one of those stories makes the advice so much more actionable. It takes it from abstract economics to, okay, here's what I need to do tomorrow morning.
It really does. You know, we started this talking about exclusion, about that cold office and the feeling that you don't belong in the room where decisions are made.
And we're ending it with the idea that you can not only be in the room, you can be the one leading the negotiation. You can set the terms.
That's the shift, passive to active.
That is the shift. And as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one final thought. We talk a lot about gatekeepers in industries like real estate, the brokers, the agents, the lenders, and we blame them for the barriers.
And they definitely play a part.
They do. But the most effective gatekeepers is usually your own sense of being overwhelmed. The system works because it counts on you being too intimidated to ask why or what if.
That's profound. The gate is only locked if you don't try the handle.
Exactly. So, what happens to your financial future and your community when you stop waiting for permission? What happens when you realize that even the things labeled non-negotiables are really just an opening bid?
That's This Week from Women Plus Real Estate. Full newsletter with data, links, and archives at womenplusre.substack.com. Until next week, keep your eyes on the market.